Are you an old fogey like myself and you find yourself playing retro games more than modern games? That is what I want to talk about today and try to kind of walk through maybe my mental state to see what you guys think, and maybe some of you can have an understanding of where I'm coming from, even if you disagree with me, or maybe some of you can relate to where my mind's going as to why I tend to play retro games more than modern at this stage in my life. So one thing that comes to mind right out of the gate, of course, is nostalgia. That's always going to be a thing with retro gaming, as there are some games that I play that it just kind of gives me all the feels and it takes me back to a place in time when I was a kid that I was playing this game and I was doing XYZ, thinking about the group of friends I hung around and all these other things, right? Yes, that's always going to be a part of it, but that is not necessarily my driving force when it comes into playing retro games. So one thing that tends to push me towards retro games more so than modern games is modern games have burnt me over the years with the incompletion of releases, and it makes me not want to invest my money into something that is not a complete product. I don't want to have to wait until month 6 after I bought a game to be able to play it without all the bugs or goofy things that are going along with it. I should be able to plug it in, play it, and be good with it. I don't want a headache with something that I'm going to be spending $70 on day one. So that pushes me back into retro gaming, because I'm like, I got this library of games that I completely either missed out on or I just never got around to. So it makes me go, how about I just save myself some money and I can, go back and emulate some of these games, since I do the retro achievements, so I can go back and play some of these games. And even if I were to buy some of the original games for whatever console it is, whether it's Genesis, Super Nintendo, PlayStation, etc., it's probably going to still be cheaper than buying that $70 game, and I already know what I'm going to get. So the next thing I'm going to touch on is the formula for video games. I know this is going to sound really bad, but it's just one of those things that I guess, shattered the glass on myself, if you will. And I was like, it seems like there's a particular formula that they've been running with modern games, and the variety just isn't there. It doesn't have to be the most graphically intense game to make it good, but the style of games that they tend to focus in on, it typically ends up being games that, not necessarily saying I don't like them, but there's just too many of them. Like, a lot of games that tend to come out anymore is like first person shooters. So as we know, like Call of Duty, it's like one of the biggest games ever, right? Well, for myself, I burnt myself out on Call of Duty type games a long time ago. So it's hard for me to go and try to reinvest in games such as that when I already know that my mind's just not going to be in it. Whereas I know with retro games, I'm getting a slew of different things, rather it's the RPGs, platformers, run and guns, shmups, and stuff like that. There's not really a whole heck of a lot of games such as that are getting released, at least at the same volume as they once were. So the variety, just to me, from the outside looking in, just isn't quite as vast. I don't want to say that they're not coming out with different games like that, such as RPGs and stuff like that. I know that they are. I guess the way that I look at it when I'm trying to follow what is coming out or what people are hyping up, it tends to be things like Grand Theft Auto or the first person shooters and stuff like that. But it's things that my brain just goes, I really don't care about those types of games. So then I keep reverting back to older games. Easy mode. That's something that I've noticed with a lot of modern games. It seems like a lot of them, for the most part, seems like you're playing on easy mode. And I'm not saying that every game has to be the most difficult thing you've ever played in the entire world. All I am saying is that I personally like at least a little bit of a challenge when I'm trying to play a game. I don't want to feel like I just picked up the controller and I'm just easy breezy just going straight through a game. I want to feel as if I earned my win by the time I finished my game. And again, going back to retro games, obviously a lot of them make you earn your win, and you feel a whole lot of satisfaction at the end of completing whatever retro game it is that you're playing. gaming characters and mascots. Now, I know this is going to sound dumb, but this is just something I kind of, again, I noticed what kind of pulls me back to thinking about retro games and stuff like that. But I noticed that with modern games, you don't really see any sort of franchise or games where they're really trying to get you invested in some sort of a character and then to follow this character for the next, say, 5 to 10 years or something like that. So for example, what I mean is like Mario has been the guy for Nintendo since the inception of the NES, right? And then Sonic was Sega. And then you had Crash Bandicoot, and Spyro was PS1. It's just, you didn't realize how important those types of games were until you start realizing that those little things kind of kept pulling you back into those consoles and into those games because you wanted to continue playing as those characters and seeing what kind of things you're going to be getting into and what kind of enemies you're going to be coming across and what's going to be the new villains or bosses that you have to go against. Now it's constant change of storyline, and I just feel it's almost like a short-term memory thing, if you will. It's just here it is. And not saying that it's a bad game or anything like that. I just don't think that there's a lot of investment in there from the gamer side of things. And maybe I'm just overlooking it or overthinking it, but that was just something that I noticed with myself a long time ago when it came to modern games. Is I was like, man, there just isn't these characters that just want to keep pulling you back to continue playing these types of games. So that is all I had for today's discussion. Let me know what you guys thought about this in the comments, whether you agree or disagree with anything that I mentioned here today. I'd like to hear some feedback from you all. But thanks again for watching, and then I'll be seeing you in the next video.